I was just watering my prize-winning hydrangeas, a totally normal Tuesday morning, when my husband's mistress actually tried walking right into my house, like she owned it. Can you believe that? It was so shocking, like, my heart just stopped, but that moment, right there, changed everything, making me quietly take over their finances instead, a revenge they never saw coming. Last month, they showed up expecting sympathy, but something else happened. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. My name is Alara, and for 16 years, my life with Owen felt, well, comfortable. We lived in a quiet neighborhood, in a house we'd bought when we were just starting out, a pretty 3-bedroom place with a big yard that I adored. I spent hours in that garden, coaxing hydrangeas into vibrant blues and pinks, feeling a real sense of peace with my hands in the dirt. Owen, he worked in sales, always busy, always talking about big deals coming through. I handled most of the house stuff, the bills, the groceries, keeping everything running smoothly. It just made sense, He was the big picture guy, and I was, I guess, the detail-oriented one. He'd often say, "Alara, you're so good with numbers, I don't even worry about a thing," and I'd just smile, feeling appreciated. Looking back, maybe that was my first mistake. Trusting him too much, letting him off the hook for responsibilities that were, in hindsight, ours together. Our days had a rhythm. Owen would leave early, I'd get my morning coffee, maybe do some gardening or work on my little online craft shop. We'd have dinner, watch some TV, talk about our day. Or rather, he'd talk about his day and I'd mostly listen. He was a storyteller, always had some funny or dramatic thing happen. I liked that about him. He made life interesting, even if sometimes I felt like a supporting character in his big show. There were little things, though, that started to niggle at me. He'd come home later and later sometimes, with vague excuses about clients or traffic. His phone was always face down, or he'd quickly put it away if I walked into the room. When I asked about his long work trips, which were becoming more frequent, he'd get a little defensive, a bit too loud in his reassurances. "Alara, come on, you know how demanding sales is. It's just business, darling." And I'd tell myself, he's right, he works hard for us. I wanted to believe him. I really did. One afternoon, I was at the grocery store, pushing my cart through the produce aisle, humming a tune. My phone vibrated. It was a picture message from an unknown number. I opened it, thinking it was probably a wrong number, but my breath hitched. It was Owen. He was at a fancy restaurant, laughing, holding hands across the table with a woman who definitely wasn't me. She was younger, bright blonde hair, a really bold smile. The caption underneath just said, "Look who's forgotten about his wife again." My stomach dropped. I felt cold all over, right there by the organic kale. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone into a bin of apples. I tried to make sense of it. It had to be a mistake, a prank, right? But the way he was looking at her, the way she was looking at him, there was no denying it. The world suddenly tilted on its axis. I walked out of that grocery store, leaving my full cart behind, barely remembering how I got home. I just wanted to curl up and disappear. For a few days, I was a ghost in my own house. Owen didn't notice, or maybe he pretended not to notice. I just watched him, like a stranger. The way he'd smile, the way he'd talk about his day, it all felt like a performance now. The anger hadn't really settled in yet, it was mostly just a deep, sickening disbelief. Then came the day that solidified everything, the day that sparked the fire in me that I never knew I had. It was a Tuesday again, just like in my memory, a sunny, peaceful morning. I was out in the garden, pruning my roses, wearing my old gardening hat and gloves. A car pulled up our driveway, a sleek, sporty little thing I didn't recognize. The door opened, and out stepped her. The woman from the photo. Sienna. She looked at me, standing there in my dirt-stained clothes, and a smirk slowly spread across her face. My heart, which had been so quietly broken, suddenly hammered against my ribs, not from fear, but from a strange, rising heat. She walked straight up our path, right past me, like I was invisible, like she lived here. She tried the front door handle. It was locked, of course. I just stood there, watching her. My mind, usually so busy, was oddly clear. She tried again, then turned, looking at me with an impatient frown. "Excuse me," she said, her voice surprisingly strong, almost entitled. "Could you open the door, please? I need to get in." I took a deep breath. My hands, still in my gardening gloves, were clenching the pruning shears. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice coming out steadier than I expected. "But who are you, and why do you think you need to get into my house?" She laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "Oh, you must be Alara, right? Owen's wife. He told me you'd be around. I'm Sienna. And I need to get in because Owen told me to meet him here. He said we needed to discuss some things, about our future." My blood ran cold, then hot. She wasn't just here to meet him, she was here to claim something. She was implying she was moving in, or at least setting up shop here. She actually tried taking over my house. My home. My sanctuary. Our future. I repeated, my voice now dangerously low. "Owen and my future? Or Owen and your future?" She rolled her eyes. "Don't be naive, Alara. We've been together for months. He's been telling me he's going to leave you. He wants to be with me properly. And honestly, this house is a bit dated, don't you think? We could do so much with it." She gestured dismissively at my hydrangeas, at the porch Owen and I had painted together years ago. That was it. Humiliation, pure and sharp, pierced through me. Not just the affair, but her audacity, her invasion. It wasn't just about Owen anymore. It was about her, standing on my property, trying to erase me. Right then, something snapped inside me. The tears I'd been holding back, the despair, it all hardened into a cold, fierce resolve. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was furious. But I knew deep down that screaming and crying wouldn't solve anything. I needed to be smart. I needed a plan. I looked at Sienna, her confident smile, her hand still on my doorknob. "I think you have the wrong impression, Sienna," I said, my voice now calm, almost unnervingly so. "Owen and I have a life here. And this house is my home. You won't be coming in." She scoffed. "We'll see about that. Owen will be here any minute. He'll set you straight." But I knew he wouldn't. Owen was a coward. He wouldn't pick a fight with her, not when he was trying to impress her, but he certainly wouldn't defend me. This was my fight now. A quiet, terrifying plan began to form in my mind, a complete takeover. She might think she could take my house, but I would quietly take over their finances instead. Every dollar, every cent, every last detail I'd managed for years. She had just ignited a firestorm, and she had no idea. This was no longer just about pain. It was about strategic, undeniable revenge. I would make her regret ever stepping foot on my lawn, ever touching my husband. After Sienna's brazen attempt to walk into my home, something shifted within me. The hurt was still there, a dull ache, but it was now overlaid with a layer of icy calm and a fierce determination. I wasn't going to beg, scream, or cry. I was going to fight, but on my terms. My revenge would be quiet, meticulous, and absolutely devastating. She thought she could take my house. I would take everything else. Specifically, Owen's everything. I had been the one managing our money for years, paying the bills, balancing the books, making sure we had savings. He'd always just sign the checks, trusting me completely. This, I realized, was my leverage, my secret weapon. He'd handed me the keys to his financial kingdom, and now I would use them to dismantle it. The very next day, I started my investigation. My first step was to discreetly open a new bank account, solely in my name, at a different bank. This was a safe harbor for the funds I would be redirecting. Then I dove into our shared accounts, our joint credit cards, every financial document I could find. Owen, bless his oblivious heart, left everything accessible. I started with our main checking account. It seemed fine on the surface, but when I looked closer, I saw large, unexplained withdrawals. Not our usual bills, not household expenses. These were hefty cash amounts, often on weekends. And then there were the credit card statements. Oh, the credit card statements. Purchases at high-end restaurants, expensive jewelry stores, luxury boutiques, all places I never went, for things I certainly didn't own. It was a pattern, clear as day. He was spending a fortune on Sienna, trying to keep her happy, to impress her. I started a detailed spreadsheet, logging every suspicious transaction. I cross-referenced dates with his work trips and late nights. It all started to fit together like a morbid puzzle. My surgical narration became vital here. Owen's undisclosed credit card debt totaled nearly $75,000 across 3 different cards, all opened without my knowledge in the last year. These cards were maxed out, accumulating interest at exorbitant rates, barely covered by minimum payments. His business dealings, which he always spoke of so grandly, were in fact precarious. He had taken out a significant line of credit against our home equity, again, without my full knowledge, for a sure-thing investment that, from the looks of his sparse business account, had gone south spectacularly. The house, my beloved house, was far more leveraged than I ever knew. He had signed papers, forged my initial in one instance, to secure these loans. It was criminal. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about financial ruin, and I was unknowingly standing in the path of it. The humiliation I felt at Sienna's audacity was now overshadowed by a terrifying realization. Owen wasn't just a cheating husband, he was a ticking financial time bomb. I needed to act fast, not just for revenge, but for self-preservation. I couldn't afford to be dragged down with him. I escalated my quiet takeover. I began diverting small, then larger, amounts from our joint savings into my new, secret account. I changed the direct deposit for my online craft shop earnings to go exclusively into my personal account. I quietly canceled several joint subscriptions that Owen never used anyway, saving us a little cash. When Owen asked about the fluctuating account balances, I'd just shrug. Oh, just moving things around, trying to get a better interest rate, or had to pay a big repair bill, remember? He never questioned it. He never bothered to look closer. He just trusted me. Foolish, foolish man. Sienna, meanwhile, continued her attempts to assert herself. She'd call our house phone, hang up if I answered, or leave vague messages on the answering machine that were clearly meant for Owen. Don't forget our plans, darling, or just checking in, thinking of you. She even mailed a small, frilly package to our address once, addressed to Owen, with a card inside that read, "To my wonderful man, from your future." I intercepted it, of course. My hands trembled as I opened it, finding a ridiculously expensive, silky robe. I just stared at it, this symbol of her confidence, her assumption that she had already won. A deep, hollow laugh escaped me. She had no idea what was coming. "You're living in a fantasy, sweetie," I murmured to the empty room, folding the robe neatly and placing it in a donation bin. One evening, Owen came home, looking a little flustered. He sat on the couch, rubbing his temples. "Rough day, Alara," he sighed. "Things are a bit tight at work. My big deal, it's not looking so good." I pretended to listen sympathetically. "Oh, no, really? That's awful, honey. What happened?" He launched into a rambling story about market shifts and unexpected costs. I just let him talk, while in my head, I was calculating. His line of credit, his maxed-out credit cards, his failing business venture. It all coalesced into a picture of imminent collapse. He was setting the stage for his own financial downfall, and he was so consumed by his lies and his mistress that he couldn't see it. This was my midpoint reversal. I had thought I was just getting revenge, but now I knew I was saving myself from becoming collateral damage. The stakes were not just about dignity, they were about financial survival. I realized I needed professional help. This was too big for me to handle alone. I quietly sought out a divorce lawyer, a kind but firm woman named Ms. Evelyn. I told her everything: the affair, Sienna's intrusion, my discovery of Owen's hidden debts and reckless spending, the forged signature on the home equity loan. Ms. Evelyn listened patiently, her face unreadable. When I finished, she simply said, "Alara, you have a very strong case. And your foresight in tracking these finances will be incredibly valuable." She looked at my spreadsheets, her eyebrows raising. "He's left quite a paper trail for you." I felt a flicker of pride, a cold satisfaction. My meticulousness, which Owen had always taken for granted, was now my greatest asset. Ms. Evelyn laid out the strategy: gather every last piece of evidence, secure my remaining assets, and prepare for a comprehensive divorce settlement that would protect me and, importantly, financially cripple Owen. My quiet takeover of their finances was now official, backed by legal expertise. The war had escalated. The weeks that followed Ms. Evelyn's guidance were intense. I moved with a purpose, a quiet focus that even Owen, lost in his own little world, couldn't penetrate. I continued to gather evidence, printouts of bank statements, credit card bills, copies of the forged loan documents, even a few subtle recordings of Owen's phone conversations where he alluded to financial trouble and his new life with Sienna. I became a ghost in my own home, present but invisible, observing everything, saying little. Owen, becoming increasingly stressed about his business, started coming home even later, his temper shorter. He'd complain about money, about unexpected expenses, completely unaware that his wife, the one he thought was clueless, was actively dismantling his financial future piece by piece. Sienna's calls became less frequent to the house, but she'd leave demanding messages for Owen on his phone, messages I often overheard, hinting at growing impatience. Owen, where's that money you promised? Or, I need to know when you're leaving her. This is dragging on. One morning, Owen seemed particularly distressed. He sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands. "Elara," he said, his voice strained. I'm in serious trouble. My business, it's completely failed. I owe a lot of money." I paused, my hand on the coffee pot, pretending surprise. "Oh, Owen, no. What happened?" I asked, my voice laced with feigned concern. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot. "The investment, it tanked. Everything I put in, and the loan I took out, it's all gone. I don't know what to do. The bank is calling." He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months, like he expected me to magically fix it, just like I'd fixed every other small financial snag in our life. He expected sympathy, even after everything. It was a pivotal moment. He was finally confessing his ruin, and I was ready. "Owen," I said, putting down the coffee pot, my voice steady. "I think we need to talk. Properly." He flinched, probably expecting a lecture about his spending habits. But he wasn't expecting what came next. "I've known about Sienna for a while now," I continued, watching his face drain of color. "And I've also known about your other debts, the ones you took out against our house, the ones with my forged signature, and your business that completely vanished. I've actually been tracking everything." His jaw dropped. He tried to speak, but no words came out. "We're going to get a divorce," I stated simply. "And you're going to pay for every single thing you've done." The sheer disbelief on his face, the way his eyes widened, was almost comical. He had truly seen me as just the quiet wife, the one who handled the mundane. He never imagined I could be this strategic, this cold. Ms. Evelyn arranged a meeting. She suggested we do it at her office, ensuring a neutral and professional environment. "It's best to handle these things with a clear head," she advised. Owen, shell-shocked by my sudden revelation and the mountain of evidence I'd already presented to him, agreed to come. He also brought Sienna, likely for moral support, or perhaps because she too felt entitled to be there. This was last month. They showed up expecting sympathy. They probably thought I'd be a weeping mess, easily placated, perhaps even offering them money to go away. The day of the meeting arrived. I walked into Ms. Evelyn's elegant office, feeling a strange mix of nerves and exhilaration. Owen and Sienna were already there, sitting stiffly on the client chairs. Owen looked pale and disheveled, while Sienna, though still trying to project confidence, had a brittle edge to her usual smirk. Her eyes, usually so bold, darted nervously around the room. They both turned to look at me as I entered. Owen managed a weak "Elara." Sienna just glared. I said nothing, just sat down calmly next to Ms. Evelyn. Ms. Evelyn began, her voice calm and authoritative. "Owen, Sienna, thank you for coming. We're here to discuss the terms of Elara and Owen's divorce." Owen immediately interrupted. "Divorce? Elara, we can talk about this. My business just went under. I'm practically bankrupt. This isn't fair." Sienna piped up. "Yeah, he told me. You can't just leave him when he's down. That's not right. You need to support him." They sounded desperate, entitled. They genuinely expected me to comfort him, to help him pick up the pieces, even after he'd shattered mine. Miss Evelyn held up a hand. Owen, your financial situation is indeed quite dire. However, that is entirely due to your own choices. Alara, on the other hand, has been incredibly prudent and well aware of your actions. She then turned to me. Alara, would you like to proceed? I took a deep breath. Yes, Miss Evelyn. Owen, Sienna, let me be very clear. Sienna, you tried to take over my house, didn't you? You thought you could just waltz in and claim what was mine. Sienna opened her mouth to protest, but I didn't let her. While you were dreaming of my house, I was quietly taking over Owen's finances. Every last penny he tried to hide, every loan, every fraudulent signature. I know it all. Owen was utterly still, his face frozen in a mask of horror. Then, Miss Evelyn slid a stack of documents across the polished table. Owen, these are the divorce settlement papers. Given the extent of your financial deception, your reckless spending, the clear evidence of adultery, and the severe debt you've accumulated, much of which directly benefited Ms. Sienna here, Alara is entitled to a substantial settlement. After reviewing all assets and liabilities, factoring in the emotional distress, and ensuring Alara's financial security, we are asking for a $1 million divorce settlement, along with the full equity from the sale of the house. Owen and Sienna froze. Their faces, already pale, went ashen. They stared at the papers, then at me, then at Miss Evelyn, their eyes wide with disbelief and outright panic. $1 million. The silence in the room was deafening, thick with their shock. They looked at each other, then back at me. Sienna, for once, was speechless. Owen finally sputtered, $1 million. Alara, where would I even get that kind of money? I have nothing. He looked truly desperate now, no longer the charismatic salesman, just a broken man. That, Miss Evelyn interjected, is for you to figure out, Owen. Alara has meticulously documented everything. Your assets have been frozen, and we have enough evidence of your financial improprieties to make this settlement ironclad. The house will be sold, and Alara will receive the full equity, free and clear, as part of the settlement. She then handed Owen another, slimmer folder. And these are the papers detailing the severe consequences of your business failure and your hidden debts. You're looking at significant personal bankruptcy, Owen. The $1 million divorce settlement is separate from that. I looked at them, truly looked at them. Sienna's face was a mixture of anger and betrayal, realizing Owen had nothing left to offer her. Owen's eyes were filled with absolute despair. The tables had turned completely. They had come expecting my tears, my weakness, my sympathy. Instead, they got $1 million bill, a lawyer, and a woman who had quietly, precisely, taken everything back and more. It was a victory, not just of revenge, but of self-worth. The next few months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Owen tried to fight, but with Miss Evelyn's expertise and my mountain of evidence, he had no ground to stand on. The house was sold, and the funds from the equity went directly into my newly secured accounts. The $1 million settlement was indeed granted, payable over time as his remaining meager assets were liquidated and future earnings garnished. Sienna, I heard through the grapevine, quickly abandoned Owen once she realized he was truly bankrupt. My home, the place she tried to invade, became the foundation of my new financial freedom. Now I live in a lovely small apartment downtown, closer to my online craft shop's new studio space. I travel more, I connect with friends, and I feel a sense of peace I haven't known in years. My hydrangeas now bloom in a vibrant public park near my apartment, a donation I made, feeling a fresh start. Owen lost everything: his money, his mistress, his reputation. But I gained something far more valuable: my independence, my strength, and a profound understanding of my own resilience. It was a hard lesson, but one that taught me to never underestimate the quiet strength of a woman scorned, especially one who knows how to balance a checkbook. This journey, from humiliation to taking my life back, it taught me that sometimes the loudest revenge is the one whispered, the one meticulously planned in silence. It wasn't about destroying Owen, not really. It was about rebuilding myself, stronger and wiser. So, if you've ever felt like you're taken for granted, or that someone is trying to take what's yours, remember, sometimes the quietest actions have the most explosive results. You have more power than you think. And sometimes, $1 million is just the beginning of a whole new life.